Hey everybody, Tyler with Bedford Camera and Video. This is the latest episode of the Bedford Talks series, and I'm glad to have someone that I've come to know over the past few years, especially with the event that we're about to discuss. And this is Trent Jones. Trent, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and talk with me for a little while and kind of pick your brain about media and education. This is exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this and excited to have the conversation.
Absolutely. Trent, tell everyone a little bit about yourself for those who may not know you.
Sure. Thank you. I'm currently the Director of Communication and Community Engagement for the Springdale School District. Springdale School District, as you know, is the largest school district in the state of Arkansas. We have about 3,000 employees, about 23,000 students, 31 schools. And it's truly an honor to have the opportunity to utilize our communication skills that we have to share timely, relevant, critical information. I personally like it when we get to do the fun, entertaining stuff that makes people smile and laugh. But as you know, there's many avenues of communication. And right now I get the great privilege of being over the communication office that communicates with all these thousands of people in our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when did you get started in media and where did that take you?
I think that's a great question. And you know, I think about my journey and just how, you know, media and storytelling is a part of it. So as you know, at the core of communications is storytelling. And really, when you think about it, storytelling has been the longest profession in the history of the world. It's what ties cultures together. It's what builds community bridges. It's what gives voice to the voiceless. And it manifests in many, many different ways. So I fell in love with the art of storytelling when I was young. And as I grow up, you know, as I grew up in education, you begin to find all these different disciplines that you could maybe connect with. And I didn't really connect with anything other than storytelling, you know, so I didn't go to be a doctor or whatever. So I discovered media at the University of the Ozarks in Clarksville, and my discipline was shooting video. So I love what you've done with the place. Your skill sets are great, and I always love Bedford's as well because it's fun to get to know all the gear and get to know all you guys and the professionals. So from the University of the Ozarks, it's really where I kind of learned that media, communications, is really, you know, involved in everything, in every discipline, every avenue, every passion, everything that there is that's out there, media is a part of it. So if you do, like right now, everybody loves bike riding in Northwest Arkansas. There's media there. I mean, there's communications in hospitals, in education, in music, in anything you can think of. So I got out of college and I worked at NBC out of Fayetteville. And I worked there for 4 years as a chief videographer. Then my family, who comes from education, we've had maybe 3 generations of educators in our family. My dad called me and he said, hey, they worked for the Springdale School District. And he said, hey, we're gonna open this school named har-ber, and it's gonna have a video productions program. And we really would like for you to give a shot at trying to teach there. And I was like, well, you know, I don't know, I'm having a good time at NBC. You know, we were chasing tornadoes, and I'd interviewed presidents and vice presidents and covered national championships. And media can get you involved in a lot of different things, a lot of really cool things that you can be involved in. So I moved over into the education world, and this was 2004. And what was really interesting at that time was kind of the group think in the state of Arkansas was very minimal for our world. So, you know, it was like, can you read our announcements kind of type. That was the level. And I remember thinking, so at that time, for those of you who are from the area or remember, in 2004, 2005, Springdale High School had this unbelievable football team. Mitch Mustaine, Damian Williams, a couple of awesome guys. You know, Gus Malzahn was our coach. These guys went on to make huge impacts, and a bunch of other great guys too. I don't want to minimize anybody. Matt Taylor and Nathan Bull, and I remember the guys. But Ben Cleveland. But you know, I remember looking at them and thinking, okay, so if a kid like Damian Williams, who's a great young man, can be recruited to play on Saturday morning in front of 100,000 people, and Damian made it all the way to the NFL. I mean, he played for the Tennessee Titans, you know, which is awesome. Don't we have people like that in our field? And so I started thinking, all right, so if the expectation is we're going to read announcements, you know, what can I do in my class to create opportunities for us to find Damian Williams's or Tyler's in our class? So that was what I did. I started doing like workforce alignment, I made a class for broadcast, a class for film, you know, a class for production, an intro class, and I tried to build a whole ecosystem. So I don't know, I probably went on a little further than I should, but I just, at the core, what is media? What does it mean to us? You know, it's a sense of belonging to a story. It's a sense of bringing something to life. You capture moments in time and you make them live forever. It's giving young people a skill set that they can use for the rest of their life, potentially in gainful employment.
Right.
So I think that's really what it is for me, is staying true to the story, staying true to the skills, and just remembering to the best of our ability that it is all about hard work and it is all about being a good teammate. But while we can, we need to try to have as much fun as we possibly can.
Right.
Now, there is a whole other aspect of media, of speaking truth to power and all those things, and there's value there. There is value there. But for me, particularly in the education sphere, I want to really, you know, I want to share that passion of the ownership of the skills and the passion of storytelling with my community. Yeah.
So I didn't realize your family was in education.
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to go into education just like your family has? Because I mean, there are some people who do not want to do what their parents did,
right.
You know. So there must have been something pulling you, something that you saw in what your parents did, or maybe teachers that impacted you when you were in school that made you go, I want to, you know, I think I wouldn't mind switching from doing the NBC media into going into the education side of it.
So I do have a real philosophical answer to that, but I will tell you kind of an anecdotal story, which is actually true. This is a true story. My dad and I were sitting down for dinner, and he says, I really want you to think about getting into education. And I was like, no. And he said, but you get the summers off. And I was like, no, I don't care about that. You know, I was like, I love doing what I'm doing. He was like, you get 2 weeks off at Christmas. And I was like, it's okay, I get time and a half. It's no big deal. And he says, you get snow days off. And I said, I'm listening, talk to me. No, that's just anecdotal, I'm just kidding. But the reality is, when you really think about the altruistic nature of education, when you commit yourself to service and to service to a community, and a longitudinal approach of thinking about your interacting with people when they're 15, 16, 17 years old, that was the age group that I taught, and you're thinking about the relationships you have with them and the fact that you potentially could stick with them for the rest of your life. You might see them when they're in their 30s and they say, my God, there's Mr. Jones, and you'd be like, oh, hey, my gosh, you know, it's like, and you get to watch them and you get to grow with them, and in reality, that was the conversation my dad and I had. We did tease about the snow days, but it's about the stability, the financial stability for your family. It's about the service to your community. It's about being the first step on the path of someone and trying to create that stability. There's nothing better than watching the aha moment in a kid's life. And media is a field that doesn't necessarily feel attainable. Everybody wants to be a YouTube star, which is fine. That's a pathway forward. But how do you get there? Can we establish that work ethic? Can we establish that, you know, unlocking that creativity, finding what your skill set is. Some people are writers, some people are idea people, some people are organizers, some people are videographers. That's all inside of this world. So I think for me, it was that. Now my family were administrators. So my dad was the deputy superintendent of the Springdale School District. He did the hiring and firing in the school district. My stepmom was in charge of curriculum, and we're actually sitting in the Dr. Marcia Jones Performing Arts Center, and that is my stepmom. My mother was a teacher at Elmdale Elementary. My stepsister, but my sister's a teacher in Greenwood. My wife's a teacher at Springdale High School. And you know, at the core of education, that's what it is. It's a commitment to service. It's that commitment to humility, of knowing that humility is strength, and helping your students understand, you know, right now is a place where you are safe. Your 2 feet are on the ground with an adult in front of you that cares about you, that is creating space for you to be able to explore your skill building and your skill set, so that when I am removed, you are on stable ground.
Right.
That's the goal. Because I used to tell my students when I taught high school, I said, do you want to know what the scariest day of your life is? The first day after you graduate.
Absolutely.
Because 24 hours before that, you had all these adults helping you, and now it's like, all right, see ya. And you're like, wait, I'm still just 18. Hold on a second. So that's our goal. Our
Legally,
goal.
I'm an adult, but
yeah,
realistically,
yeah, but like 24 hours ago, I was. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we try to do, is help them have as much command as they possibly can, and it takes time to grow. So my parents are in education. I'm in education. I hope my kids will pursue it. One thing that's cool, though, is the media side of things. It was such like the Wild West when I took over in 2004. There was really no guidance. We were rewriting the frameworks as we were going. I mean, and at that time there wasn't really like live streaming, or there wasn't networks of stuff, you know. So we were kind of building all of that as we went, and it was exciting to be a part of. From 2004 to 2000, I think I stopped teaching students in 2018. Now, I did full-time teaching from 2004 until 2012.
Okay.
From 2012 to 2018, I did 0.5. I was half admin, half teacher. So from 2004 to 18, when I taught students, I mean, that was an enormous sea change in our world. And we got to be on the front lines of all of that, you know. And even if you just look at the difference of students, from the 2005 students to the 2010 students to 2015, it's a huge difference. To now, 2024, it's just a different world at how we utilize media. But particularly for our audience, you know, gear changes, times change, but at the core, it is all about storytelling. It is about the engagement and that feeling that you can create, that feeling you connect to. And when you can give somebody skills that equal purpose, that equal passion,
Right.
And that's why I love education.
Exactly. So just looking at from 2004 when you started teaching and up to now, when it's crazy that it's been 20 years. I hope that doesn't make you feel, too bad or anything. But I moved here in 2016, and I've seen quite a bit of change. And I, in some ways, still kind of feel like an outsider. Like I didn't grow up here. I didn't, go to these high schools, here. But you, as someone who grew up here, you must have seen tremendous change from the day one that you started teaching up until now. Yes, the gear changes, the technology changes, but the techniques remain the same. The stories sort of remain the same, but there are some deviations. I mean,
That's true too.
in some ways, even just with, the current, whether we talk about geopolitics or we talk about our own domestic politics, there are some things that are similar to 20, 25 years ago. There are some nuances that are rather different. And then that helps drive the stories that are being told.
Yeah.
So would you speak to the, I guess more or less the explosion of population and culture change really in the past 20 years and how that's affected education?
Yeah, you're really, that's very wise. So I think the easiest way to say it is school is the heartbeat of a community. And when you really look at what the school is connected to, a health of a community is really reflectant on the health of the school. So that's one thing that we are very intentional about in Springdale schools. When you drive around our community, we want our facilities to be beautiful, to be high quality, to be top notch. The most important investment, the single most important investment we make is in putting a high quality, high professional, loving, caring adult in front of our children. That changes the trajectory of people's lives. When you really think about it, and I bet you're the same, everybody has a story about a teacher that really impacted them, you know? And, you know, not to belabor any other departments or whatever, because all departments and divisions are important, but when you really think about education and the way a student can have their lives changed by a teacher. And you know, so our community has doubled in size since I've been a teacher, and it'll double again. We're predicted in the next 20 years to go over 1 million people in Northwest Arkansas.
I can't believe that. I heard that and I was...
The goal is this, you know, what is the role of a school? So schools serve as a stabilizing force in a community, so the children come to it, and by doing that, that allows the continuity of operations to happen in the community. So parents are able to know my kids are going to a safe place where they're going to have quality education, where they're going to have quality engagement with other people. Therefore, I can go to work. I don't have to stay here. So there's continuity of operation and the role of a school. But that's the entrance. The exit of it is critical because we are aligning with the industry partners in our community to say, what do you need? Do you need media folks? Well, here's our pipeline. You know, do you need arts, academics, athletics, workforce, anything you can think of? And that's really what a school does. So when you look at an explosion of population, it's good and it comes with its challenges, but the goal is we have to stay relevant. We have to build relationships. I tell people all the time when I'm talking to people, you know, the goal is to align your skills with your passion, of course. That's because then it doesn't feel like you're working, feels like you're doing something with a purpose, right? But at the end of the day, the single most important thing is relationships. Relationships matter. So for a school to stay relevant and a community to stay healthy, we have to have that engagement. So whether you have 20,000 people or 90,000 people, or when we're about to go over 150,000 people, we all want to have rising tides, right? And you mentioned that too about kind of geopolitics and just politics in general. I challenge people, and it's good to engage in those things, and we should, but I challenge people to, you know, get involved in your school, get involved in your community, and just see if you can make a difference in breaking generational poverty.
Right.
Because that's the goal. And it's complicated, but that's the goal. If a kid comes to school and they get high quality academics, they get a high quality skill set, whatever it may be. Maybe they learn how to become a filmmaker, right? And then it's incumbent on me, in my estimation, to build a pathway or an opportunity for that young person to be able to find gainful employment or gainful continuation of education after they graduate.
Right.
So if I had a student like Trent Jones, and you know, and I was an aimless peacock, wasn't sure where I was going, but you know, I found media, and I remember having a conversation with my dad where I told him he was very, very frustrated with me my junior and senior year because I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, sure.
So I was wishy-washy. And of course, at that time, he wouldn't believe me, but I was honest. I said, when I find something I really care about, I'll dedicate my life to it. And I believe at the core of the vast majority of our kids, that's where they are. When they find something that they care about, they'll dedicate their life to it. So, you know, how does growth impact a school? You got to stay relevant. You got to have relationships. You got to create ownership. You got to create ownership in your community. These young people, whether they moved here 6 minutes ago or 8 years ago, or they've been here for 60 years like our family has, this is your community. And you need to be a part of it because you're going to be the owners of it. You're going to be the people in the local news. You're going to be the people in the communications offices. You're going to be our doctors and our lawyers and our firefighters and our public servants. And so, you know, what do you know about our school? And what do you know about how we do things? And just get involved. Be a part of it. Get to know us, because that's the key, is that ownership. And ownership relates back to people feeling personally involved.
Right.
And what is the key of people feeling personally involved? Storytelling. And that's why for me it always comes back to that. That's why we tell stories about this student who did this or this teacher who did that, because then you relate to it and you say, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of the Springdale family. I want to go and win an Emmy. Yeah, yes, you do. Come on and be a part of it, you know? And that's really what it's all about, is relevance through relationships.
Absolutely. Now, you and I met not as one of my teachers in high school. I met you, working for Bedford, and we're doing this event called OMAF.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that was. I had to look it up. The Ozark Media Arts Festival, which is like just down, it's downtown Springdale, not too far from our, our main office. And I remember I just kept going to these. I kept, I think this, the one that's coming up is probably the 5th or 6th one, or I can't remember, but I just remember that was a really cool event. And I'm glad that, we've connected with that. And, some of my good friends are former students of yours, and that's always a fun thing to talk about, because I'll text them the day of. I'm like, hey, I'm going to see Trent Jones, and I'm going to take a picture of him and send it to you. He may or may not know I'm taking the picture of, but they told me stories about having fun in the media class, not too far away from here, and just how much fun they learned, how much fun they had, and what they learned. Yeah. And really what they gleaned from it, and a lot of those guys are in media to this day. They're still doing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And they're giving you a hard time at restaurants too.
That's right.
But what, for those who don't know what OMAF is, the Ozark Media Arts Festival, would you give us a little bit of insight into what that is?
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to share. So the Ozark Media Arts Festival connects education to industry in the areas of multimedia. That's the easy tagline we've come up with over the years. But it kind of goes back when you kind of hear the reoccurring themes that we've been talking about in this interview. Students need to know that if they have a passion in a certain field, they can pursue it. And they can have gainful employment throughout the rest of their life. Right. And that's really essentially what it is. So the Ozark Media Arts Festival, this will be its 13th annual festival. It started in 2011. And I'll give that history in a second. But students have the opportunity to do upload competitions where they submit work that they've already worked on. They can do on-site competitions where they can compete and the judges are industry professionals. They can do workshops that are led by industry professionals. And then we have a college vendor fair where colleges, vendors, employees come and the students can interact directly with them. One of the things that was really important for us, most everybody knows what a film festival is, sure, right? Well, this is not a film festival. So the purpose of this is networking and relationships. And now it manifests through those things we were talking about, upload competitions and on-sites and workshops and stuff. But that's the goal, is a student walks in and they see multi-disciplines. So it's not just film. It's film, broadcast, photography, graphic design, entrepreneurship, public relations, print media, on and on. And the idea is that a student may be in their school, and no cut on their school, sure, but maybe at their school they only work on broadcast. And they're not, I don't really want to do broadcast, but I kind of like this world. I'd really rather do YouTube stuff, or whatever. Sure. Well, let's go to this Ozark Media Arts Festival with my teacher. And then you walk in and there is everybody represented. And then you're like, oh, well, I didn't know I could work for Bedford, so I'm going to go talk to Tyler. And that's really what it is. At the end of the day is we want to create one place where over a 2-day period, all of us industry professionals are there together. From the business side of things, they can grow their next employees. From the student side of things, they can see the pathways that they have in front of them. From the teacher side of things, the students are able to compete and utilize their skills, and they can win big prizes. We've had, just quick numbers for you guys, we started in 2011, so this is year 13. We've probably had 10,000 attendees over the 13 years. We also give prizes away, what we call of the years. So we have a video program of the year, a photo program of the year, graphic design program of the year. Then we have a teacher of the year. There's never a dry eye in the house when we give the teacher of the year. And then we have students of the year. We have a broadcast journalist of the year, filmmaker of the year, photographer of the year, and graphic designer of the year. So those come with monetary prizes. So over those last 13 years, we've given away $50,000 back into the programs across the region. And the idea is to create sustainability, right? So not everyone is well funded. Not everyone has somebody with the proclivities of wanting to support media. Again, not meaning this in any rude way, but some people think still, oh good, you can read my announcements.
Right.
And I'm like, well, if 17 or 18-year-olds are able to do some of the things we see them do, they're able to do more than just read announcements. So I try to create a place where we can get together, celebrate excellence, celebrate sustainability, create relationships where people can get to know each other, and really, like I said before, celebrate the art of storytelling and find all the different ways that it's applicable. It works. You mentioned this a second ago. It works, right? So this is a real story, on a film set, 2 people met. One of them was 35, one of them was 23. They both realized that they went to har-ber High School, and they both realized that they went through the har-ber High School media program. And that was fascinating for them to look at each other and be like, and we're both working on this film set. And so it works. And we have people in multiple disciplines. I just focus on communication that can learn this, that can build relationships, and that can then manifest and grow. One thing that I'm really proud of is throughout the years, we were doing workforce, alignment before it was sexy,
Oh, yeah.
Now it's really sexy, which is good. That's a good thing. I'm really glad that it is. But I mean, we were building those relationships, a long time ago. So you can see, we have local news, we have medical field, we have independent businesses, we have, just people who are hustlers on the side, we have wedding photographers, we have newspapers, colleges, and they all get together, and it really is, service oriented. It's about showing those young people, hey, if you have talents and you can align them with skills, there are places for you to go use those. Absolutely. And that's what it's about. And it's fun. It's wild. I mean, when you see the kids get in there and everybody's cheering, and and when the teachers of the year win, get out, man. It's so great. So what we used to do was the teacher of the year, then we would do the programs of the year. Until we started realizing that the teachers of the year essentially shut down the whole, it shuts it down, It's like you'll say, and the winner is teacher X from high school X. And the place goes crazy. The kids stand up and they're hugging and people are crying, and then it makes me cry. And I'm like, I'm not crying, I'm just sweating, the lights are in here. But, that's what it's about. It's about that service. And I can remember too, if you don't mind me sharing, this was a passion project. We came up with this idea multifold, me and a couple of buddies of mine. And I told them at this time when I came up with the idea, I said, downtown Springdale's dead. It's not now. Now it's
Right,
exploding. But at that time when I was coming up with the idea in like '09, there was, nothing happening. I said, we should do something with education to get young people infused back down in there and, whatever. And so I didn't start it in downtown Springdale. I had a couple of very good friends who helped me, and they deserve a tremendous amount of appreciation. We used to have our own TV channel, Channel 14, and we would put videos on there and whatever. So I met a young man who invited me to come down to Fayetteville and meet these group of filmmakers who had just created a film festival. And it was called the Offshoot Film Festival, if anybody remembers that. The Offshoot Film Festival, actually, it was called the 540 Film Festival.
I remember that.
Yes, which 540 doesn't even exist now. Now it's I-49, but it was the 540 that turned into the Offshoot Film Festival, which is now the Fayetteville Film Festival, okay, if you follow all that. So the Offshoot Film Festival, and I met Jason Sewell and Mark Landon Smith and Ken Woodard and the great Dan Robinson and Cassie Haley and the great Jules Taylor. I mean, these are legends in our area. And I went in there and I was just this excited guy in education. I was probably, in my mid-20s. And I went in and I was like, I want to do a festival where we connect programs and and they were just like, get this guy away from us, And so what they told me was, they said, look, our festival starts at 5 o'clock. You can have from 9 to 5 and do whatever you want. And I was like, really? Thank you. So we did. We had the very first one that connected education to industry. We had vendors and we had on-site competitions, and about 500 students showed up.
Wow.
And when the buses all rolled in, Jason and Cassie were like, oh, wait, come here, let me talk to you. And I'm so grateful for them for being as just supportive and thoughtful and kind. So then the second year, I met a regional powerhouse, and he was new in our area too, and his name's Mike Gilbert. And many of you probably don't know Mike, and he prefers it that way. He was the COO of the Jones Trust at that time. So I shared my idea with him, and he was like, can we talk? I said, yeah, of course we can. So I go and I meet him at the Jones Center, and he says, I want you to move this to downtown Springdale. And I'm thinking, that was always my goal.
Right.
And I'm like, yes, sir. And so really, and this is a good lesson for people out there who, if you're not an established professional, I had said the same thing before I met Mike, but when I said the same thing after I met Mike, things really began to go fast. So having Mike stand next to me and validate my ideas and turn them into our ideas and the power of we, right? And so Mike brought in one of my mentors who I love dearly, John McIntosh. John McIntosh has gone on to go down and help Dr. Goldsmith, Brandon Goldsmith, for the Fort Smith International Film Festival. Nothing to do with the University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. Fort Smith International Film Festival. John Mack has done that. So John Mack, Mike Gilbert, and I moved it from Fayetteville to Springdale, and we changed it to the name of Spring Creek Festival. And Mike, through his benevolence, his leadership, his kindness, his forthright dedication to community building and young people, the trade-off was, I'll run the festival, he gives me the facility. So they gave us the Jones Center. Just, here's 2 full days, you have the whole Jones Center, fill it.
Wow.
And it was like, let's go. And we did. I mean, we rocked it. We're talking 1,400 kids would come, free to enter, free to attend. I mean, you're talking about making real impact in people's lives. So I look back at the way Mike Gilbert and John McIntosh, Jason Sewell, I shouldn't forget Caleb Clark. I'm sorry, Caleb, he was in there dressing up like Sprout. But the way these people opened doors, stood by, supported, and we delivered. So then Mike left the Jones Center and I moved out of downtown Springdale, and so we moved it over and called it the Ozark Media Arts Festival. So then now we've activated it throughout the entire downtown Springdale.
Right.
So we have lots of more people involved. But I really just, there's a lot to unpack there, but believe in yourself, stay strong, work hard. The first night before the festival, very first one, I was on my hands and knees in my living room with my wife and one of my students' mothers, Jackie Crisp. And Jackie Crisp was just a passionate mom. Both of her kids are in the film industry. They're great people. She was just a passionate mom. She said, I'll help. So there we are after dinner in my living room on our hands and knees, hand stuffing registration bags. And that's where it started. And then it went all the way to Mike Gilbert opening a door and just, for those of you who've never seen the footage, just hallways lined with kids and vendors and competitions and giving away monetary prizes to now we're in, the Apollo, Shiloh, the Medium. I mean, we're all over.
Oh, yeah.
People from all over the state come. It's humbling, and I'm proud of that. And you mentioned that about your friends. And at the end of the day, I think that's always been my goal. I think my goal has always been whatever I do right now is going to pay off, at least I hope, for decades. So when I look at, it's good right now, no doubt, we're having fun right now. But when I look at time, resources, energy that we're putting in, if it makes some kind of a difference in a young person's life, or maybe they grow up and they open a door for somebody, or they put energy in and, or even better, if they have an idea,
right,
and they're like, I'm gonna pursue this, you can do it. And I'll be there to help. So since Mike has done that for me, I have now opened doors for other people and said, I advocate for this person and watch them grow. And that's what it's about. It's paying it forward and making sure that it's service oriented. But one thing that I'm really, really proud of, I think it's a good story for you guys, or at least I hope it is. I think about Fran Buck, my old friend Fran Buck. I have no clue where she is now, but she was the teacher at Valley Springs. And I remember one time we did a competition, and for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years in a row, har-ber, I was with har-ber at the time, we had won first, second, and third in the competition. And it came with money prizes. So this one year, Fran got third. And so I looked over and she was crying. And I went over and I gave her a hug and I said, are you all right? And she said, well, number one, I've always wanted to beat Springdale. I was like, okay. But I was like, all right. And she goes, but this is the first funding I've received in almost 10 years.
wow, yeah,
And I sat there and I really let that sink in for a second. They had no budget. She was crying over a $250 check. And of joy. It was joy.
Yeah.
I mean, she was thankful. And I thought to myself, Fran was a very driven, hardworking professional who was selfless and dedicated. And her students just happened to be born in Valley Springs. And that's no cut on Valley Springs. I'm not trying to insult Valley Springs. But there was no really strong emphasis on investing in her program. So I thought to myself, that's what OMAF's going to do. OMAF is going to raise money, and we're going to find programs. We're going to find people like Fran who work that hard, who are that passionate, who are that emotional to cry tears of joy for their students because A, they were successful, and B, they got funding for a program that can help more kids.
right,
So I said, I will make that my mission to make sure I raise money so that way I can help find those programs and let them be seen. I want you to be seen. I want you to know that you're important, like the work you're doing is valuable, it's important. It's changing kids' lives, it changes communities' lives. I go back to the very first thing I said. You think about the power of storytelling and what storytelling really is, whether it's letting off some emotions so you can laugh, or it's a date night, or it's a critically acclaimed documentary, or it's people who are going into war zones, or, I mean, it's important. It's the soul of a community. And we have to invest in our programs to let those teachers know you are not alone. You are supported, you are seen, you are valued, and the skill sets that you are teaching our kids will go out and they will make a difference in people's lives. And if somebody's really important, if somebody is really valued this skill set, we need to make sure they stay in this field. And that lack of funding doesn't, for some reason, make them say, well, I think I'll go get in this field, you know? So anyway, Ozark Media Arts Festival is something I'm very proud of. There's been a lot of great people. I mean, I just couldn't name them all, but you know, several of our students who were of the years, I've talked to them since. Several of our teachers who are of the years, we've kept in touch. A lot of them volunteer, come back and help. It's really, really powerful. Free to enter, free to attend. Come and build those relationships. And it's just something I look at and I think it's a good model.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that this isn't just for Washington County. It's not just for Benton County. This is, and it's not even just for Arkansas. I mean, it's yes, largely feeding Arkansas, but you know, we have Oklahoma students, we have Missouri students, Kansas students, and I think this is great because you know, we're not the Chicagos and the LAs of the world. You know, we're not the Londons or the Sydneys of the world, and where we have access to those jobs within a short drive.
That's right.
We're really kind of making our own thing here.
That's right.
And I think that's great because you know, while Northwest Arkansas has grown and it continues to grow, and not just north to south, it seems like it's growing east to west more now.
Right.
But it's really cool that even these more rural communities are being served by this. It's really cool to see the buses show up and see what schools they're coming from and see, you know, what schools the kids have on their lanyard. And it's really encouraging to see that happen because this is an opportunity that they may not have otherwise.
Yeah, and let me touch on that if you don't mind, kind of human psychology. So sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes smaller school districts will look and see kind of our big four and think, well, we can't beat har-ber. Yes, you can. You absolutely can. When you look at what Bo McCaslin's doing out of DeQueen, he's come up here and he's put it on some folks. And, you know, those of us who know, we're like, oh yeah, DeQueen's right by me now, you know. But some people are like, I've never even heard of DeQueen, you know. Well, guess what? There's students there, and there's talented students there. And if you don't pay attention to your skill set and focus on your fundamentals and, you know, do all that stuff, talented students, no matter where they're from, they're going to win. And so I agree with you 1,000%. Here's another thing I'll hear teachers say, because teachers are just grown students, you know, when you really think about it. We all have our own insecurities and we're all learning and whatever. So a lot of times teachers will say, well, we're not ready to compete yet. So we're not going to go to Ozark Media Arts Festival yet because my students aren't ready to compete. That is absolutely the wrong backwards thinking.
I agree.
What you want to say is bring them up, put them in. It's in the fall. So yeah, if they've never even competed at all, not once, zero, you learn the most from failure. And the word failure is not harsh. Come in and learn, be a part of it. Give it a shot, learn from the other kids. Watch what other people do. Don't be afraid. Do people win? Yes, but it's not about winning. If you're just there, we're winning. Be together. And that's how you learn. You learn by doing. You know, I was ready when I went into NBC. I was ready. But my very first interview I did was with the mayor of Fayetteville, and I shot him in front of a mirror. I'm sorry, in front of a window. And back then we shot monochrome. Everything was black and white. I brought it back, I put it in, I hit play, and it was blue.
Oh no.
That was it. You learn by doing.
Yep.
And I knew not to shoot in front of a window. I know that. What am I doing? But, I'd never been a part of anything like that. So I walk in, and here's the mayor of one of the most powerful cities in the state of Arkansas. And he's like, I want to do it right here. And I was just like, yes, sir. And so you just learn. And that's why you got to come, do it, learn, be a part of the community. Don't be afraid. As teachers, there's a million ways to say no. There's only a few ways to say yes. But Ozark Media Arts Festival is the one you say yes to. Say yes to it, because nothing's guaranteed. So if you don't come, it may not exist.
Right.
Nothing is guaranteed. We raise the money. The Springdale School District does some good stuff to help make it happen, but almost all of the money that puts the festival on is from sponsors like McClarty Daniel, the Tyson Family Foundation, Arkansas Broadcasters Association. So if teachers don't come, there is no festival. So it's all about the teachers saying, yes, put in the bus, get on the bus, come over, have fun, be a part of it. And we want to hear them, we want to listen to them. We want to keep it fresh. We want to keep it relatable. I think one thing that I'm really proud of when it comes to Ozark Media Arts Festival, I think it is on the cutting edge. It changes, it grows, it ebbs, it evolves. It's not just come in and let's learn level 1 of editing. Last year we had a whole section on entrepreneurship, on how to start your own business. The competitions try to ebb and flow. So we need the teachers to say yes, and we need them to put the kids on the bus, come down and have a good time.
Exactly. Well, and you don't know who you're going to impact. You don't know what spark this is going to start. You don't know who this is going to spark interest in, because when they come to an event like this, they're going to see other kids around the Ozarks, around the state, that are, quote, just like me. They're into the same stuff that I'm into, or maybe even some variation of that. But what a cool networking event, because social media is so prevalent in our lives. These kids are already on platforms that I don't even know about. Because, and I even see it at our Bedford table. They're, hey, I'm gonna get this totally wrong because I don't know what is out there. But what's your Instagram? What's your Snapchat?
You're right, though. I mean, we have to make sure. I kind of look at it like a pathway, or handoff points. Go back to that analogy I was telling you about the 2004 football team. So if you look at that, what do they have that potentially, at least at that time, we didn't have? Well, they had competitions, something to prepare for. You have something to look forward to prepare for, so you can hone your skills and you can go out and you can show it off, right? And if you win, you get a trophy. All right, well, now we have competitions. They have relationships on the next level. So it's like, hey, if you're a really good wide receiver, I know this wide receiver coach over here at this college, maybe I can introduce you guys, right? Because relationships matter. So that's really what it is. It's a network, it's an ecosystem. We want a teacher to know, if I have students who want to go to college, here's some great colleges. Steve Snedeker, give a shout out to Steve Snedeker at John Brown. And he truly is a great steward in our state. That guy's a legend. But
he was my professor.
Yes, but not everybody can get into John Brown, and not everybody can afford John Brown. So what if you can't do that? Where else can you go? What if you don't want to go to the U of A? What if you want to go straight into the workplace? Okay, well, here's places like Vista Productions, or here's places like, the Farm Studios in Hiwassee, or here's local news, or what if I want to cover sports, or whatever. So that's the point, is we have handoff points. We have relationships. So somebody like a teacher could walk in and say, gosh, I have this young man named Tyler. He's exceptionally talented, but I don't know where to send him. Well, come to the Ozark Media Art Festival and you're going to meet 50 professionals from 50 different walks of life, and we can find that's the whole point, is to build pathways.
So I think OMAF is such an excellent event, especially for students and teachers alike. For those that aren't familiar with the event or haven't been able to go in the past, how can they find out more about it?
Well, first, just thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share. I'm very thankful and proud. I get the great privilege of sitting here and having these conversations, but I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for just the selfless work of the teachers in our state, staff and crew who have helped over the years. I think about my good buddy Hunter Rogers at the Jones Center, who put up with me for years. The great Megan Dennison, who's now at Fayetteville High School, who's one of the most wonderful humans on the face of the earth. Carla Nemick, our past festival directors. And so I really hope people will come and they'll just support the kids, but get to see the adults too. Because there's a lot of adults like you who come every year. And so then the kids change, but then we're all there together. And it's fun to get to see each other again and catch up. And so, long answer to your short question, we have a webpage, ozarkmediaartsfestival.com, real simple. We have your basic, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and we're mostly on Instagram. That's mostly where we are. The webpage and the Instagram is mostly where we are. We have a really wonderful, solid newsletter that comes out, and you can get that on the webpage. And I really hope you will. If, for example, you are a professional who's watching this, and you're thinking to yourself, I want to get involved, or I need community service hours in my company, or whatever, reach out to us through our webpage. We always need judges, workshop presenters. Some of you are just wonderful creatives who just love sparking creativity in young people, and it is so much fun. And just come and be a part of it. Walk in, watch the prompts. We do, particularly in the film side of things, we do like finish the film, or we do 30-second short films where you have to say a certain line and you have to use a prop. For photography, we do, For photography, we do different kinds of prompts, and sometimes we do architecture, but sometimes we do modeling stuff. So our kids will come dressed up wild and creative, and just remember that we all were 15 to 18 once, and remember, how full our minds were with stuff. And some of the stuff sticks. Some of the stuff sticks. If you can get in with somebody, because they will, our young people will go through a hard transition from 18 to 21. A lot happens in your life then. And so if you can be a constant North Star, something they can fall back on, right? Where no matter what kind of chaos or turbulence or anything that's happening to them, they can fall back on saying, okay, well, I know how to work a camera. Therefore, I remember the things I did at my entrepreneur workshops. Therefore, I can at least go hustle for a little bit of money while I'm looking for jobs, or whatever it is.
Right.
Here's another good one. As everybody's beginning to notice now about phones, how phones are making our young people just obsessively engaging into different kinds of social media, which is causing some issues. Through our field, we can turn phones into a tool to serve others. So that's really it. That's what I hope. I'm hopeful that somebody sees this. They want to come check it out. They want to be a part of it. Check out our webpage. Come meet our adults, our awesome adults like Tyler, and come meet our really spectacular young people. He was mentioning earlier about your two friends. Two friends were my former students, and they were brilliantly creative at 16, 17 years old. And I can speak for them. They will say they wouldn't believe that Jones would let us do the things that, but I had a couple of rules, right? Focus on your fundamentals, your foundational skills, take care of each other, respect your deadline, here's the things that are inappropriate you can't do.
Right.
If you do all of those things, who am I to tell you that this is funny or not funny, or it's work, it's skill building,
Right.
it's community building, it's ownership building, and it's memory making. Those guys are in their mid-30s now, and they still remember the weekends that we spent shooting videos and stuff. And I'm proud of that. And that's what the Ozark Media Art Festival, I hope, is doing for people.
Well, Trent, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for watching. We'll have some more Bedford Talks episodes here in the future, and depending on how when you're watching this, the Ozark Media Arts Festival is coming up in
The first week of October.
first week of October, so just a few months from now. We're doing this in the summer, so that's why there's no students here, which makes it easier, at least to film. But we will hopefully see a lot of you students there at OMAF. If not, go to the website, get some information. If you have any questions, I'm sure they will gladly answer all of the questions you have. But this is really cool. I'm glad we're able to talk about the crossroads of media and filmmaking and telling stories with education and with young people finding out where they fit into that.
Thank you.
So that's really cool. I'm glad we're able to do this. We'll see everybody later.
Thank you.